The Proust Questionnaire was a parlor game popularized, though not invented, by the famous writer Marcel Proust. The author of the longest novel in history, Marcel Proust believed that by answering those questions, an individual reveals his or her true nature. And this is a very strong statement, especially when it comes from Proust, who tried to explore the human nature in a span of 7 volumes, 3,200 pages, and a novel that took him like 13 years to complete. This game was popular in the Parisian cafes at the end of the 19th century, among the French intellectuals, and over the years many famous people revealed their own true, unique nature by answering those questions. From Oscar Wilde, Debussy and Karl Marx to John Didion, Martin Scorcese and Allen Ginsberg. The modern edition of the Proust Questionnaire consists of 35 questions, and I've compiled all of them for you in a single link which you can find in the description. Recently I decided to explore the Proust Questionnaire myself for the first time in my life. I picked 13 questions that I believe were very relevant to my life right now, and I would like to share my answers with you in this video. Let's imagine that we are in a Parisian cafe and we are going to have a conversation and talk about those questions together while sipping our coffee. I've got mine, I hope you have yours. The original name of the Proust Questionnaire, before we started to know it as Proust Questionnaire, was a confession album. Because what used to happen was that a friend of yours would gift you a notebook with all the questions already in, and what you had to do was to write down and give your responses to those questions. And then you would return that notebook to your friend, and by this you would confess to him or her who you truly are. In this way, you could also maintain a connection if you were separated and divided by distance or time. We're going to explore my answers along the answers by some of the great famous people. This is a collection of answers to the Proust Questionnaire by Vanity Fair. People such as Allen Ginsberg, Joan Didion, Aretha Franklin, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Giorgio Armani, Martin Scorsese. I would like to read a couple of answers as we'll go through my own answers to show you how different great people, great minds answered the same questions. Maybe it will inspire you as well. So the first question that I answered in this edition of my newsletter that I sent at the end of December was, what is your greatest fear? Obviously, one thing that connects you and me definitely is that we are both worried about the well-being of our loved ones. I thought it would be a very cliched response if I wrote and gave that answer and sent it to you. So I thought I'll give an answer that goes right after that. My answer was that I'm not afraid of being bored because I've never experienced it. I'm truly scared to experience this one day because curious people never get bored. There is so much to know, to feel, to experience, and I truly believe that. I think one day if I feel boredom, that would mean that I lost my passion for reading, for discovery, for living in general. It would mean that I've become arrogant, that I'm so confident in my knowledge that I no longer need to explore new areas of science, of literature. It would mean that life actually has stopped, that I'm just living in my regular habits, I'm not growing. What is the trait you most deplore in yourself? I gave a very short answer to this question, and the answer is half attempt. I took the idea from one of my favorite poets, whose name was Kahlil Gibran. He was a Lebanese poet, and he has a wonderful poem called Half Attempt. If you would like, I'll link the poem down in the description. It is linked in my newsletter as well, so you can read it by yourself in private to fully absorb the wisdom. Sometimes there is a perfectionist in me who tries to be to do the best, the perfect thing, to reach perfection. But at the same time, I believe that there is the other side of me who tries to do everything in half, with half attempt. And I want to balance those two personalities in me. Not to be extreme perfectionist who never releases, never creates anything because he cannot like reach the perfection, and I want to eliminate that part because perfection can never be reached. But at the same time, I would like to eliminate this person who sometimes does everything with a half attempt, and I think it is something that I have to work on. I responded once again with a single word, and I said despair, because I believe that there are no desperate situations, there are only desperate state of mind. When I highlight despair, I mean this in a sense that it is a choice of free will, it is a character trait rather than a medical condition. There are people who always find the solutions to problems, and there are people who constantly complain. They point out to the problems but don't offer solutions, and those are very dangerous people. And there are people who will tell you that you shouldn't do something in life, that you should be in despair before the situation got desperate. And I strongly believe that we are creating desperate situations by feeling despair instead of the other way around. I think even the easiest and simplest problem in life can feel and seem desperate if you have a desperate state of mind. The next question is, who are your favorite heroes of fiction? The first one that I chose is Bishop Myriel from Les Miserables. I chose Bishop Myriel because I believe that there are two types of kindness. One type of kindness is useless type of kindness. It is sort of a thing that you do someone, you are being kind to someone, but you know that your kindness will disappear because you don't lead by your own example. And I think Bishop Myriel was a person who, by his own example, showed Jean Valjean that he can be kind, although he was surrounded by wretchedness and despair as well. I can dedicate an entire video just to Bishop Myriel and to his character, but this is like a brief observation. The second character that I chose is Virgil from Dante's Divine Comedy. Virgil is the person who leads Dante out from hell into heaven. The reason why I like Virgil is because he represents philosophy and reason, and he shows that by applying certain mindset, by getting out of the mindset of despair that Dante finds himself in the forest dark, you can get out. This is the reason why I love reading philosophy books. And the third character is lesser known. His name is Peter Camenzind, and it actually comes from the same novel with the same title by Herman Hesse. Peter Camenzind was a person who goes to the city to improve and to succeed in career, and Herman Hesse very beautifully describes that the world is deeper, that the life is about more meaningful things than career or success or respect that you can get from society. It is very neglected and underrated novel by Herman Hesse. Many people know Siddhartha, The Glass Bead Game, Steppenwolf, and all those stories, but they don't know about Peter Camenzind, and I would really recommend, I'll leave a link to this down below. Who are your favorite characters in history? And I list like 10 personalities, but I cannot go deep into each of them. I would really recommend for you to look into each of those personalities if you haven't heard about them. But I list Cicero, Scipio of Africanus, Poggio Bracciolini, Michel de Montaigne, Balthazar Gracian, Christopher Hitchens, John Didion, and Khaled al-Assad. The last person shouldn't be confused with the dictator Bashar al-Assad. Khaled al-Assad was one of the heroes of our time. When terrorists came to him and asked him to reveal the location of historical museum treasures that he hid from the terrorists so they won't destroy it, he refused to tell them the location of those historical treasures. For this reason, he was executed by the terrorists. And I'm saying this and I get goosebumps. He's truly a hero. He sacrificed his life in order to save those treasures, those historical treasures. I have a link to his profile to a Guardian article in this newsletter that I've sent. You can find it here and read about him more. Who Who are your favorite heroines in real life? I decided to plagiarize the reply that was given by Christopher Hitchens when he was giving his answers to Proust Questionnaire. I don't think I have agreed with anyone as much as I agree with Christopher Hitchens when he says, "The women of Afghanistan, Iraq, and Iran who risk their lives and their beauty to defy the foulness of theocracy." So he gave this answer 10 years ago. And once again, I get goosebumps when I think about all those kind of women who sacrifice everything for their freedom, to get rid of this theocratical tyrannies that are imposed on them. Those people show what it really feels like to fight for your freedom. What would you like to be? I would really love to be a scientist. I would have loved to be a scientist. And I think that at the age of 32 and 33 right now, it's slightly a bit late. I put my blame for not becoming a scientist on my teachers. The reason for this is because I had really great teachers of literature, of history, of philosophy at school, and it is thanks to them that I read all those books, that I'm so curious about literature, about philosophy. While my teachers of biology, maths, chemistry, physics, they weren't passionate about their subjects themselves. They were not good educators. I'm really certain that if I had good physics teacher or good maths teacher, I would have really engrossed myself into studying those hard sciences that bring so much help and use to the world. Unfortunately, I wasn't that lucky and my teachers weren't so great, but we live in the golden age of science writing. Writers such as Kahlil or Stephen Hawking show us the beauty of the universe, the beauty of physics and science, while being very simple for people like me. Who are your favorite poets? One of those questions that will take another a separate channel to give full answers to. My favorite poets are Virgil, Rumi, Dante, John Milton, Goethe, Lord Byron, C.P. Cavafy, Kahlil Gibran, who we explored before, W.B. Yeats, and Mary Oliver. We explored also Virgil from this list. I really like Rumi. He was a Persian poet. I have a podcast interview with one of the translators, an incredible woman whose name is Hala Reliza Ghaffori. Yeah, it's one of my favorite podcasts of 2022. Obviously, not because of me, but because of her. She's an incredible person with so much energy. Once again, everything will be linked down below. What do you most dislike? I most dislike stupidity. When people seek refuge in a false security of the consensus. What I mean by this is that we should question what we know. I think this is the main pillar of a rational and reasonable person. The rational person knows how he knows things. A rational person doesn't accept the information for granted. I really dislike this herd of independent minds, the people who believe that they are independently minded, but in reality they follow the ideas that were just ready-made given to them, without questioning more. Which events in military history do you most admire? Well, as I say here, I don't admire, but I'm certainly fascinated by the bullet that was shot by the Serbian nationalist Gavrilo Princip at the Duke Franz Ferdinand. That one single bullet that killed Franz Ferdinand launched the First World War, the Great War, and millions of people died. I think 3 empires collapsed after the First World War because of the First World War. Russian Empire, Austro-Hungarian, and Ottoman Empire ceased to exist. Of course, it wasn't that one bullet was an excuse, but can you imagine the power of that single event? What is your principal defect? I think my principal defect is pacifism, avoidance of the direct conflict, as I say, or confrontation, even when necessary. When in life I experience those moments when you have to be very blunt, very direct, and sometimes rude against the person who is rude against me, very often I choose being peaceful and I avoid conflict. I don't know if it is a defect, just the fact that sometimes I don't choose war and prefer peace. But there were certain circumstances in my life when I regretted not being more blunt. What is your most marked characteristic? My most marked characteristic is being ambiverted. Ambiverted means that I have the traits of both, of introvert and of extrovert. For years of my life, I really struggled because people are so easily say that they are extroverted, or people say that they are introverted, and I always struggled with this definition. For a very long time, I was like, what's wrong with me? I read Susan Cain's book called Quiet, and she has a small and short test there. And I realized that I'm ambiverted. This was a huge discovery because I realized that if I spend a lot of time at parties, my energy levels go down. But at the same time, if I spend a lot of time reading books, I also lose a lot of my energy. Formula and the solution is the golden needle. I need to balance out both of my sides. And thanks to Susan Cain book, I realized that I'm ambiverted. I don't know, maybe you are ambiverted as well. If you are, let me know down in the comments. I haven't met yet people who are ambiverted like me. What is your current state of mind? The best answer to this question was actually given by David Bowie. He said, pregnant. I think it's a brilliant answer, and my answer is nowhere close to that, but I quoted here Stephen Fry, one of my favorite personalities, public personalities. He said that we are not nouns, we are verbs. I'm not a thing, an actor, a writer. I am a person who does things. I write, I act, and I never know what I'm going to do next. I think you can be imprisoned if you think of yourself as a noun. And what he means here is a quote by Oscar Wilde, whom he admires a lot. Oscar Wilde said that to define is to limit, and when you use verbs to describe your personality, you are safeguarding yourself from limiting yourself by a noun, because I think it is by doing something that we become who we want to be. I'm a YouTuber because you are watching this video on YouTube, because I made an action and effort to record this video and create it and put it out for you. I'm a YouTuber, and I'll cease to be a YouTuber once I'll stop making those videos. Or what it means to be a writer. You become a writer the moment you start to write, the moment you start to publish your books. It is that initial action that you need to take in order to become one. This is what I'm thinking through and I'm going through. Those were all the questions. It was kind of very difficult to explore them even on camera because I needed to think them through. You know, this wasn't a rehearsed recording, and I had to think through those answers along with you. One of the advice that I can give you about answering all those questions is that try to avoid giving cliched responses, however true they may be. Because as I said, you and I are really afraid of well-being, that something or somebody will harm our loved ones. But I think one of the best ways to answer all those questions is to give the answers that are not cliched. There is one small element that I would like to introduce to the Proust Questionnaire. I would like to do it every year. Every year I'm going to pick 13, 15, as many questions that I will feel like, and I'm going to give my answers to them. And I think after several years I'll be able to compare my answers and to see how I evolved or declined in the way I think. As I said, all the questions will be in the description, so you can answer to them yourself. My answers to those questions you can find on my newsletter and on my website. Both of them will be linked down in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.